Imagine waking up to a sound you do not recognize. It is a rhythmic, clinical beep that cuts through the fog of your consciousness. You open your eyes to find a ceiling of sterile, square tiles. You are sore in ways you cannot name, and your environment is entirely unfamiliar. This was the reality for a man in 2018 who, after a simple fall, found himself in a hospital bed awaiting brain surgery. In those blurred hours between life and something else, his first coherent question to the surgeon was not about his survival or his family. It was about when he could get back to work. The surgeon looked at him with a frustration that only comes from witnessing someone miss the point of their own existence. He told the patient that he was lucky to be alive, yet the patient was obsessing over the mechanics of his career. This moment of near-death clarity serves as the foundation for the philosophy found in Ian McGee's How to Achieve Financial Freedom. Most of us are living in that hospital bed without even knowing it. We are obsessed with the return to the grind, the next promotion, and the accumulation of resources, often forgetting that the resources are supposed to serve the life, not the other way around. We spend roughly 25% of our lives between the ages of 40 and 65 at work. That is over 50,000 hours of our finite time on this planet. Yet if you ask someone if they want to work more next year than they did this year, the answer is almost universally no. We are trapped in a cycle of working for a future we have not yet defined, chasing a number we have not yet calculated. The core philosophical problem of the modern age is not a lack of money, but a lack of meaning. We build financial plans for our finances rather than for ourselves. If two people with identical bank accounts walk into a room, most traditional logic would give them the same advice. But if one wants to trek through the Himalayas and the other wants to sit at home and read in silence, why should their plans look the same? Money is nothing more than a tool for autonomy. It is the fuel, but we have forgotten to decide on the destination. The architecture of desire. We often operate under the delusion that more money will fix bad habits or buy us happiness. However, if you are not happy today, a windfall will only make you more comfortable in your unhappiness. It gives you more time to be who you already are. The truth about wealth is that it buys you time, not things. Think back to your most vivid memories from a decade ago. You likely remember the taste of a meal shared with a loved one, the look of wonder on a child's face, or the feeling of a crisp wind on a mountain trail. You probably do not remember the model of the phone you were carrying or the brand of the shoes you were wearing. We are socialized to value material objects because they are visible markers of success. They provide social proof. But these objects are often just anchors that keep us tied to the very work we wish to escape. We fall into the trap of lifestyle creep, where every raise in income is immediately met with a raise in expenditure. We are running on a financial treadmill that we keep speeding up, wondering why the scenery never changes. To achieve true freedom, we must first define what enough looks like. Without a definition of enough, you are on a never-ending path of dissatisfaction where the goalpost moves every time you get close to it. Consider the concept of the 2-year question. If you knew you had perfect health for exactly 2 more years, and then your life would end, what would you strip away? What would you do more of? Often the things we think are vital, such as career prestige or the opinion of our neighbors, vanish instantly in the light of our mortality. If these things are not important in our final 24 months, we must ask ourselves why they consume so much of our energy today. The biological saboteur. Our own biology is often the greatest obstacle to our freedom. Our brains are not designed for the modern financial world. They are designed for survival. We have a biological yes man inside our heads, a cognitive function that seeks to confirm whatever narrative we feed it. If you tell yourself that you are bad with money, your brain will act like a loyal assistant, highlighting every mistake and ignoring every success to prove you right. This feedback loop creates a self-fulfilling prophecy that keeps us in a state of financial paralysis. We're also victims of the optimism bias. We believe the future will always be brighter, which is why we find it so easy to swipe a credit card today. We tell ourselves that the version of us that exists next month will surely have the bonus or the discipline to pay it off. Our brains actually process our future selves as if they are different people entirely. Neurological studies show that when we think about our future self, the part of the brain that lights up is the same part that lights up when we think about a stranger. This is why it is so hard to save. We feel like we are giving away our hard-earned money to a person we do not even know. To combat this, we have to bridge the gap between who we are and who we will become. We must create an emotional connection to our future. One of the most effective ways to do this is to stop looking at savings as a cold, abstract number and start naming them. A bank account labeled Account 402 is easy to raid for a new pair of shoes. An account labeled Daughter's University Fund or the Freedom Year carries an emotional weight that makes you pause. You are no longer just spending money, you are stealing from a specific dream. The psychology of the small. We are conditioned to look for the big move, the life-changing investment, or the massive career jump that will solve all our problems. But financial freedom is rarely the result of one giant leap. It is the result of 1,000 tiny, boring decisions made consistently over time. We often ignore wallet leakage, those small recurring expenses that we no longer even think about. These are the subscriptions we do not use, the premium we pay for convenience, and the habits that have become invisible. The 72-hour rule is a simple philosophical barrier against the marketing departments of the world. Whenever you feel the urge to buy something that is not a necessity, you must wait 3 days. In those 72 hours, the chemical spike of dopamine that comes from the idea of the purchase usually fades. You begin to see the item for what it is, rather than what the advertisement promised it would make you feel. Most of the time, you will find that you do not actually want the thing. You just wanted the feeling of acquiring it. Another vital shift is understanding the difference between price and value. Price is what you pay, value is what you get. We often spend money to save time, but then we waste the time we just bought. If you pay someone to mow your lawn so that you can spend an hour playing with your children, that is a high-value transaction. If you pay someone to mow your lawn so that you can spend an extra hour working at a job you dislike to pay for the person to mow your lawn, you are caught in a circular trap. The rear-view perspective. Imagine yourself at 75 years old. You are sitting with someone you love, reflecting on the life you have led. This person asks you if you have any regrets. Do you regret not having a slightly newer car in your 30s? Do you regret not hitting a specific corporate title? Or do you regret the trips you did not take, the risks you were too afraid to embrace, and the time you spent worrying about people who will not even be at your funeral? There is a sobering thought that only a handful of people will truly cry at your funeral. We spend so much of our lives trying to impress the crowd, trying to keep up with neighbors who are just as stressed and insecure as we are. If we could identify those 4 or 5 people who truly matter today and focus our energy and resources on them, our financial and emotional lives would simplify instantly. Wealth, in its truest form, is the ability to ignore the people who do not matter so you can be present for the ones who do. This rear-view perspective allows us to bypass the optimism bias. It forces us to look at our lives as a finished story rather than an infinite series of tomorrows. When you look back from the end, the path to freedom becomes much clearer. It involves less consumption and more connection. It involves building a buffer that allows you to say no to things that drain your soul and yes to things that nourish it. The the infrastructure of autonomy. Achieving freedom requires us to stop being honest with our bank and start being honest with ourselves. We must establish exactly where we are without judgment. Many people avoid looking at their net worth or their spending because they are afraid of the reality. But the reality exists whether you look at it or not. Writing it down does not make it worse. It simply makes it manageable. You cannot navigate a ship if you refuse to look at the map because you do not like where you are currently positioned. The math of freedom is actually quite simple, though the discipline is hard. It is about the gap between what you earn and what you need to live. If you can widen that gap and invest the difference, you are buying your future self's freedom. But this requires overcoming loss aversion, the biological trait that makes the pain of losing money feel twice as intense as the joy of gaining it. We are so afraid of a temporary dip in the market that we accept the guaranteed loss of inflation by leaving our money stagnant. We choose the certainty of a slow leak over the possibility of a wave. We must also be careful about the people we surround ourselves with. We are the average of the people we spend the most time with, both emotionally and financially. If your inner circle views debt as a standard way of life and luxury as a requirement, you will find it nearly impossible to break free. Finding a tribe that values time over status is one of the most underrated financial moves you can make. The philosophy of enough. When we connect all these threads, a picture of a different kind of life emerges. It is a life where money is silent. It sits in the background, a well-oiled machine that provides security and opportunity. It is not the protagonist of your story, you are. The synthesis of this philosophy is that wealth is not a destination you reach. It is a state of mind you cultivate by aligning your spending with your values. True freedom is the ability to wake up and ask, what do I want to do today, rather than, what do I have to do today? It is the freedom to be present. If you have the money to buy a private jet, but you are too busy working to ever see your children, you are not wealthy. You are just a high-paid prisoner. The goal is to create enough wealth to stop working, but the deeper goal is to create a life that you do not feel the need to escape from. We began with a man in a hospital bed, worrying about his job while his life hung in the balance. Most of us will not get a wake-up call that dramatic, and in a way, that is the greatest danger of all. We can drift through decades in a comfortable fog of consumption and busy work, only to realize too late that we traded our best years for things that ended up in a landfill. The path to financial freedom is open to anyone willing to redefine what it means to be successful. It requires the courage to be different, the discipline to wait, and the wisdom to know what truly matters. Start today by asking yourself that one fundamental question. What life do you actually want to live? Once you have the answer, the money is just a way to get there.